Hey, how's it going, internet? Been a long time. It's good to finally be back. A lot of things has happened in the last few years, so much so that I don't think I'm even gonna try to catch you all up on everything that's happened. I'll eventually do like a highlights reel of what I've done in the last few years, all the random video clips that I've collected. But for the most part, I'm starting this channel off brand new. So, for those of you who don't know me already, I am David Morrison. I've been living as a nomad for 10 years. I absolutely love it. I've found so much meaning in being able to have the vast majority of my time to do whatever I feel like doing. And I accomplish that with this lifestyle by basically keeping my needs very few. My total cost of living each month, if I'm really bootstrapping it, a few $100s. But the way that I live, usually I'm going through about maybe $500 a month, which means the vast majority of my income is disposable to spend on whatever I want. But it also means that I don't have to use that time to go and make money. I can use that time to go and do volunteer work or other things that I'm passionate about. And so that's what I do. That's why I live the way that I live. I'll try to answer some of the basic questions that people have asked me over the years, and I'll just answer them right up front. The first thing that everybody always asks is, how do you afford your lifestyle? And I used to be a video graphics editor. I've worked as a magazine editor, promoted events. I've worked for a major record label. I've produced a TV series. I've kind of done a lot of things. But I don't really do any of that anymore. And the main reason has been, number one, it never felt like very honest work to me. Once I started getting into volunteer work and working with my hands more, just working more by the sweat of my brow, it just felt like more honest work, and I enjoy it more. And also, it's kind of hard to find that kind of work on your own consistently. So I found as I travel, it's very easy to find day labor. I charge $150 a day. I don't accept any job that isn't at least 8 hours, so I want at least a full day's work. And if I'm taking home $150 every day, I'm more than happy with that, and generally I can find work every day if I want to, pretty much anywhere I go. And usually I'll use like Facebook classifieds or something like that, but if I'm in a place that I don't really know so well. But typically when I go somewhere, I've already set things up before I've arrived at that place. Usually it's something to do with volunteering or work. So I'll already have kind of a network of people there. So I've had a lot of different rigs throughout the years. I started off on foot, as I said, and I eventually stepped up to a full-size Chevy van, which I called the Bat Van. And I had that one all tricked out and did everything I wanted to it. And I was like, well, I kind of would like to do a waste oil conversion, and that means I was going to have to switch out the engine. I decided it just wasn't going to be worth the investment to switch out an engine and eventually do four-wheel drive and all that, so I wanted to start new. So I sold it, and I bought my current rig that I'm sitting in right now, which I'll give you a tour of later, which is a 1999 Freightliner step van. It's kind of like a food truck or a FedEx truck that you've seen. I like it because it's a good solid chassis. It's got a Cummins engine, it's got an Allison transmission. It's all aluminum box, so it doesn't rust. It's really robust. It's not like fiberglass. It's just gonna fall apart and start leaking, crack and stuff like that. And I mainly got it because I'm going to be doing a waste oil conversion, which is where I'll add a completely new tank in addition to the tank that it has now. So it'll still run on diesel, but the idea is you have an A/B tank system where you switch over from one tank to the other. You always start on diesel, and then once you get up to operating temperature of 170, you can switch over to your waste oil. And that could be any kind of waste oil. A lot of people think it's just like waste oil from veggie oil fryers. But you can also use used transmission oil. You can use used transmission fluid. You can use motor oil. Any kind of waste oil you can actually use in it and burn just this, and it burns just the same as diesel fuel. And then before you come to a stop and turn your engine off, you need to switch back to your diesel to purge the lines, because if that waste oil sits in your lines, it can get thick and coagulate, gum up, and it'll ruin your injectors. So you got to always purge your lines before you stop. So all good things to know if you're considering a waste oil conversion. The benefit to doing that is between the two tanks that I'll have about a 2,000 mile range per fill up, which is from Utah to Panama, to give you an idea. And the vast majority of those miles are free. You're not paying a dime for it. You can go to any transmission shop and they're going to have 50 gallons at least of waste transmission fluid that they're just dying to get rid of. So not a problem there. That's super easy way to get fuel. And if you can't find it there, you can find it at you go to a place that does oil changes, and I'm sure they've got a lot of waste oil they can give you there. Or you go to a restaurant and get their fryer oil. There's just a million options that you can use if you do your system correctly. And if you do your system the way that I do mine, some people do it where they filter it before they pour it in. What I would do is I would have a system where I pull a hose off the side of my van, and it goes down into the tank that they have and sucks it out, and it filters it as it brings it in through a first stage filter, and it goes through a centrifuge and several other filters before it finally gets into the tank. I had bought my current van that I'm in right now, but it's actually sat around for about 2 years before it got a transmission, the transmission repaired on it, and then that only lasted about 10,000 miles before it ended up in the shop again. I ended up spending about $8,000 altogether for not just the transmission, but a few other things I had the shop do. But now it's running all ship shape. But between that, though, while I was in the few years where I was waiting on this van, I had a motorhome, and I decided I just didn't like it. They're just rickety and crappy, and they leak, and they just take too much work, and they're just not very well built, and I just didn't like it. So I got rid of that, and I got a Geo Metro that got 50 miles to the gallon. I completely pulled out the passenger side seat and took out the bench seat for the back seat, and I put in a mattress. First I put down a piece of wood and just framed it all out so it was all just one big solid piece, other than the driver's seat that was basically cut out. And then I went and I bought a mattress from Walmart that was like a full-size foam mattress, and I just cut it out to fit the shape. And it's actually a pretty cool little camper. I went quite a few miles in that thing. It was a little bit cramped, but it did the job, and you got really far on not a lot of money. It was pretty rad. So then I finally got this rig fixed, and I'll give you guys a proper tour of this rig later. I'm still, as you can see, kind of framing it out. It's got a lot of work to go on it still. But now it's running all ship shape, so that's what I was waiting for. Now that the engine and everything is running really solid, now I feel like I can start investing into it. So in the last few years, I've discovered a love of a few things. From the last time that I checked in with everybody and actually did an episode, I've really gotten into extreme sports. I'm very much a novice in all of them still. I've only just barely dipped my toes into any of them, but I bought a hang glider, I got a kayak, got a mountain bike. I'm looking forward to getting into skydiving, eventually working towards base jumping, probably slacklining. I mean, there's just a whole slew of these things that I really would like to get more into. So you'll be seeing a lot of that in the channel in the coming years. So another thing is, I used to do rap music years ago, and I quit in 2008. I think I got to a point where I grew up enough that I didn't really like rap music anymore. I didn't like what it stood for, and I didn't even understand what I ever thought was so cool about it. And so I just kind of walked away from music for about 10 years. And in the last few years, I've gotten back into it. It started off as just kind of jamming with friends, and then I started getting into doing original music. And now I write, sing, record, compose, whatever, do all my own full compositions. And I've recorded an album, and technically I could have split my first album into 2 albums. It's a pretty big album. It's got 19 songs on it. And I'm pretty well on my way into the next album already. I would call it indie soul music, and you're gonna hear a lot of that music on the channel. I'll be producing all my own music for the channel now, so I'm pretty excited about that also. Basically, my goal is just to stay inspired in life and not ever feel like I'm sick of it. I just want to stay inspired, and that means for me moving around and trying new things all the time and constantly challenging myself. You can ask me any questions you'd like down in the comments, suggest videos if you like, or anything you'd like to hear me talk about. This is basically just a video diary. This is the life of David. This is not a van life channel. It's not an adventure channel. It's not a philosophy channel. It's going to be a little bit of all of that though, and then some. I wanted to keep track of my life, and interestingly enough, as I first started doing these videos, I found a lot of people were kind of interested in following along with that, so I've just kind of went with it. So until next time, thanks for hanging out with me. Peace.